Now, it's great to be back in the studio with another live guest, and it's a really warm welcome to Rachel, who is calling in live to have a chat with us today. Now, Rachel, where are you ringing in from the UK, and have you got this beautiful sunshine that we've got here in Bristol?
I do indeed. I'm in Lancashire, about 25 miles north of Manchester, in a rural area, and it's very, very beautiful. But I'm cold, so I'm sitting here in like a chunky cardigan and slippers, would you believe? But yeah, lovely to be here.
Yeah, brilliant. It's the thing about autumn events. We're starting to get into cardigan weather. Now, I know that we've only connected recently. I'm not sure if you've been to a Communicate conference before, so it would be great if you can tell our delegates in our community a bit about you and a bit about Planet Shine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I'm a filmmaker by trade. I started out my career in film and television, working in feature films, music videos. About 10 years ago, I did a master's in innovation and sustainability and came across the triple bottom line. Obviously about 20, 30 years late to the party, but it really resonated with me. And I, at that point, decided that I wanted to combine creativity and filmmaking with sharing really important messages. And all my life, I've been really passionate about environmentalism and animal and human rights. And it kind of led me into an intersectional journey, shall we say. And Planet Shine is the, I guess, bringing all of that together. So we work both with industry and brands who are also purpose driven. So we help them define their sustainability voice and turn that into great editorial and film. But we also have a media platform so that we share empowering and inspirational stories with global citizens. But everything we do is rooted in this intersectional approach of the environment with both human and animal rights. And it's been an amazing journey so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know you've got a really exciting event coming up. It's linked to COP26. Can you tell us all about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So COPtimism is happening on the 27th and 28th of October. So it's a 2-day event, a conference which is being held at the Blytheswood Hotel in Glasgow, but also via a virtual 3D area that we're having built at the moment. The aim of it is to establish a steering committee so that any conversations that happen within the event lead to action. And we'll also use all of the stuff, the conversation, the information, the agreements that come out of COP to turn it all into action next year in the run up to COP27 in Africa. But basically, it's a gathering of some amazing people from all around the country. We start with a nature panel. You know, everything we do comes back to nature and basically says, all we need to do is look at nature and follow suit and align ourselves, whether it's business-wise or personally with nature, and that's half the battle, you know. And then we're looking at things like systems change and then various industries, food, energy, finance, transport, fashion, and so on. So just bringing incredible people together and basically working out how we can have some positive impact next year and in the years that follow.
And I know that this is a big topic that, you know, we've been discussing, and the need for turning these international discussions, these ambitions into action. I think, you know, you're right on the wave there. Are you feeling quite hopeful about COP?
Yeah, I am. I know there's been a lot of negative press, but I think that there are enough of us, from, you know, members of the public to great brands, both large and small, to environmentalists and academics. I think that there are enough of us that want change. And even though this last 18 months of COVID has been horrific for so many people, it's shown how quickly we can instigate change and how quickly we can act. So I think as a species, we're very resilient, but we also need to perhaps stop being focused purely on our own species and look at the whole ecosystem. But I think there's an awful lot of hope. I think there's so much opportunity. And it's not just about saving the planet, as it were. I think there's a lot of opportunity for us as individuals in this just transition, as well as a lot of opportunity for business. So I feel like it's win-win for all of us, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, that's how we're going to make change together. And it's great to see that energy, you know, leading up to October. Now, how can, you know, those watching our Communicate community help with what you're doing? Is it attending the event, promoting the event, watching, following? You know, how can we help?
Absolutely. We've got it's about 100 people are the only amount of people that we can have at the physical event, but we're open to speakers and people in different sectors who might want to come and join some of the panel discussions. It is also going to be online. We are selling tickets to cover costs, but totally happy to offer a significant discount to your circle of people. On the back of this event, this is very much industry and business focused, but we're also launching the Voiceless Revolution on the back of COP26. And that's about marginalized communities and giving them a voice. So everybody from ethnic minorities to women to the working classes to animals and the planet itself. It's about giving underrepresented communities a voice in the climate emergency, because I don't know about you, but I feel from the people I know, my circle, sustainability is very white middle class. And I feel that we need to bring everybody into this discussion, not just because everybody should have a voice, but because everybody can act. And however, I really believe that however small an action, it makes a tangible difference. So the Voiceless Revolution, and I would love people to connect with me on LinkedIn, because we'll be starting to talk about that over the next couple of weeks. And I think that's the sort of bigger citizen-facing campaign that we're going to be pushing forward after COP. So any support and amplification of that would be greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. And we will share some links to our platform and in our thing. If you're happy to share a code for Communicate delegates to kind of come onto that journey, I think that would be great. And I think there's so many links between what we're talking about. Is, you know, a big theme for us has been tying together the messaging around climate change and nature's recovery, the climate and the ecological emergency. And I think that, you know, having these conversations near COP and as part of COP are so vital. And I love the idea of bringing the voices of animal and the planet, you know, into that, and remembering that we're kind of, you know, that guardianship and stewardship role that we have has sort of become a bit old-fashioned, that thinking, hasn't it?
Completely. And I think for too long we've had this sort of anthropocenic approach, thinking that our species are the only ones that matter, you know, when actually, if we really align with all of nature, all species and the planet, imagine the world that we can create. You know, I know that's definitely the world that I want to live in moving forward, you know.
Absolutely. So you've got a busy few weeks ahead. But thinking beyond, you know, just that event, I'm asking our studio guests 2 questions, and the first is really around some, you know, projects or practice in communication that's really inspiring you as you go into this busy period. Can you give us some examples or inspiration?
I mean, what's inspiring me at the moment is a focus on nature positive. So not just, whereas, you know, there's industry talks about net zero, I don't think, well, from the people that I speak to, and I might be doing the general public a bit of a disservice, but I think that it's a bit of a complex, no, it's not a complex term, is it? But it's a bit mystifying, you know. I think we need to talk much more about nature positive, and it's not just about stopping or reducing our impacts. It's we've stripped nature and the planet for so long and destroyed so much. We can't now just suddenly stop polluting the atmosphere or polluting the oceans. We need to start putting back. We need to start focusing on regeneration, which I'm sure we all know that. I know I'm preaching to the converted, but I think nature positive is what's really inspiring me at the moment. And a lot of the rewilding projects, particularly in the Highlands of Scotland, I find incredibly inspirational, because I feel that, you know, for hundreds and hundreds of years since, for example, the clearances happened in Scotland and the native Gaels were driven out of their homes, we've been under the control of capitalist and colonialist systems. Sorry, I could jump on my bandwagon all day long about this. But when you know, we're all part of this same system, and we need to sort of almost just go back to connecting with nature again. And which is, I think that's why I'm so passionate about intersectionality, because I think the thing that, well, if we can start to convince people that whether your particular cause or mission in life is about women's rights or civil rights or animal rights or whatever, we're all victims of the same system for hundreds and hundreds of years. So the minute we start to recognize that and collaborate, I think the sooner we can start to fix social and environmental issues. So yeah, that was a bit of a long answer, but essentially the rewilding and nature positive movement is what I think we should all be focused on, but is what is really inspiring me at the moment.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'm not sure you're preaching completely to the converted. I think it is something that's a very live discussion, very much at Communicate. Yesterday, I had the honor, really, of interviewing Tony Juniper, chair of Natural England. And he was talking about, within the sector, moving from conservation to nature's recovery, and how it's not just a word shift, it's an evolution of how we're approaching this. And, I'm chairing a meeting next week, which is looking at this term ecological emergency and climate emergency, and how we might move to a more nature positive framing. So I think this is a really live topic, and it's great that we could, intersect now ahead of what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I really think that the power is in our hands personally, even with rewilding. I just think it's important. We need to start shifting our mindsets. You only have to look at the gardens where I live, and apart from mine, which is really wild and is intended to be like that, everybody has perfect lawns, everybody's using pesticides and loads of awful weed killers and stuff, and it's kind of like, let's just stop with this perfect, precise lawn thing. Let's stop using chemicals and let's start to give the land back to nature. And not only is that better for our health, if you're living adjacent to your garden, as most of us do, apart from allotments, for example, but it's much better for the planet and for future generations. So, the power is absolutely in our hands.
Absolutely. And if you've been at Communicate, I would really encourage going back when you go to the recordings. A session we had yesterday on innovative city projects. This isn't just happening in urban, but there were some great opportunities there and some ideas about how to bring citizens and residents in neighborhoods, in the lawns, in the back gardens, in the balconies, in the, the spaces that we can control. Always remembering not everyone has a garden. I have a little balcony, and I like to rewild. My rewilding is very small, but important.
Yeah,
a last question for you, Rachel, and again, this is something that we're asking everyone. Have you got a provocation or a challenge for us? We've only got a few hours left to Communicate, and it's back to the day job tomorrow. What would be your provocation to our community?
I think the single most important thing we can all do is stop eating meat and dairy, unfortunately. But, I like to caveat that every bit helps. Cutting out meat for one meal is a huge help, but also working with the farming community to help them transition to more sustainable business models and likely to be more profitable business models. So I think absolutely, I don't want to castigate the farming community. I think it's an incredible industry, but we know to get to a just transition, it needs to change significantly. And, again, the power is in our hands. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rachel. So COPtimism, I loved the name. I think that's how I ended up reaching out to you and saying, we've got to hear about this at Communicate. We're going to put some more links in our resource pack and in the chat, a special code. Make sure you can interact with that event. And keep in touch with Planet Shine, connect with Rachel on LinkedIn, and follow this movement, especially the Voiceless Revolution.